Alright, hey guys! So today we are going to talk about protein synthesis. What is protein synthesis? Well, that is simply how the body is making its proteins. Remember, proteins are very important because proteins are the doing macromolecules of the cell. The cell and then the body cannot do anything if it doesn't have the proteins in order to do it. So protein synthesis, the body making these proteins, is a really big deal. If they don't make them, your body doesn't work. Here we're going to review DNA and RNA a little bit. So first up is the function of DNA. The DNA in your cell is containing all of that cell's information. This information is stored in what are called genes. A gene is that coded section of DNA that tells our cells how to build proteins. So the nucleus contains the recipes to make your body, and those recipes are your DNA. So if you think of a recipe book, the front and the back cover that protect the book, that's your nucleus, and the DNA are all of the recipes inside of it. And then a gene is going to be each individual recipe. So one gene would be how to make chicken Alfredo. The next gene could be how to make lasagna. If y'all know, I love my dad's lasagna. The gene after that could be making something called Tuscany chicken, which is a personal favorite, and I just randomly found it in an old recipe book. So, a recipe book. The front and the back cover are the nuclear membrane, or the nucleus. The DNA is the combination of all of the recipes inside that book that make up that book, and a gene is each individual recipe. Now, almost everything that is your body needs to function is coded for in your genes. All right, there are some essential amino acids that you have to take in because you don't build them yourself. But pretty much everything else that your body needs to function is coded for in your genes. The DNA is kept inside of the nucleus to be protected. You wouldn't have a book without a front and a back cover, right? Because it's just too vulnerable to being damaged. Therefore, it needs a messenger to move information from the nucleus to the site of protein synthesis. Protein synthesis happens in the ribosomes. Keeping up with our recipe book analogy, your DNA is kept inside of the book where it's protected. When you want to make a recipe, or if I want to give a recipe to my mom, I would write the recipe down on an index card, a messenger. Therefore, I'm taking the recipe out of the book, writing it down on an index card for my mom, and then I'm going to send it to her. I'm going to give it to her, and she will cook it in her kitchen, which is the site of protein synthesis. The ribosome is the kitchen, where she's going to cook the food that I gave her the recipe out of my recipe book. Your body does this. DNA is inside of the nucleus. The gene is read, converted to a messaging system, and then it is sent out of the nucleus to the ribosome. This is where RNA comes in. RNA is the messenger between the DNA and the ribosome. The RNA is the index card. And then there are three big differences between the DNA and the RNA that you need to know. So there are three big differences between the recipe and the index card. RNA has something called ribose sugar instead of deoxyribose sugar. This is just the base. RNA uses ribose, deoxyribose, that's your DNA. RNA is one strand, while DNA is two. Okay, this is because you only need one strand to get the information, while DNA has a double strand to make it more stable. RNA has uracil. It doesn't have thymine. Thymine is a DNA-only thing. So let's look at those differences again. This is not my picture. I got it off the internet from Thought Company. So first, DNA versus RNA. DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. It's named after its sugar base, while RNA is that ribonucleic acid. You can see here, RNA has one strand, while DNA has two strands. Okay? They have these same three bases. Cytosine, which we always see as a C, guanine is a G, and adenine is the A. All right? Both DNA and RNA have these. However, DNA has thymine, or T. RNA has uracil, or U. They trade these two out. DNA that has that double-stranded sugar phosphate being the deoxyribose. RNA has a single-stranded sugar phosphate, that sugar phosphate being ribose sugar. Deoxyribose has this structure, while ribose has this structure. If you notice, they look very, very similar, except for this right here. Your ribose sugar has a hydroxyl group. Your deoxyribose sugar does not have that hydroxyl group there. Okay, so that's the difference between deoxyribose and ribose. I always remembered it as, oops, didn't mean to erase that. There's an oxygen here. So ribose is oxygenated. Deoxyribose is deoxygenated because there's no oxygen. Okay? Then we go into the three different types of RNA. There's messenger RNA that takes the RNA, or it takes the recipe out of the nucleus. This is my index card. There's ribosomal RNA, which makes up your ribosomes. And there's transfer RNA, which is my mom reading the recipe off of the index card to make it. Okay? RNA copies the DNA. This happens inside the nucleus. It carries the information out to the ribosome. All right? So if you're thinking about the mRNA as my index card, I'm going to be copying down the recipe out of my cookbook onto that index card. All right? I'm going to have the book open. It's happening inside the book, inside the nucleus. And then that index card is going to carry the information I've taken from the nucleus, so my recipe or my gene, and it's going to take that information to my mom at home. The RNA, our RNA, makes up the ribosomes. Okay? So remember that nucleolus? The nucleolus provides the rRNA to make your ribosomes. It reads and decodes the mRNA through using something called tRNA. The tRNA carries an amino acid, so that's what actually makes the protein. It looks like a T. It has this structure. Up here, it will have the amino acid. Down here, it will have three bases. I'm just going to make these up, ATC. Oh, no, AUC, because this is RNA and it doesn't have thymine, it has uracil. So AUC. The tRNA carries the amino acid, and that amino acid is going to join up with other amino acids to become the proteins. Then we're going to get into protein synthesis. I'm going to make another video for protein synthesis for you to keep it from getting really confusing. Just know this is RNA. This right here is tRNA. And it has to match up with the strand of mRNA. We're going to talk a lot more about that in the next video.